Consumers want to know the facts about the products they buy, but America's agricultural landscape is not easy to navigate. Between different companies, scientific advancement, government regulations, advertisement campaigns, and an unhealthy amount of myth and misconception, anyone would be hard-pressed to make sense of it. That's where Real Ag comes in. Kyle Bauer and the Real Ag crew bring you truthful, unbiased information about real agricultural concerns. From the producers who make your food, to the store where you buy the final product, and everything in between. This is Real Ag. Now, here's your host, Kyle Bauer.
Chickens are an incredibly important animal, not just for their meat, but for the eggs they lay. Chicken is our topic today on Real Ag.
Production of Real Ag is made possible by
the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by farmers.
The relationship between chickens and humans starts before recorded history.
Chickens, as we know them today, being domesticated, have been around thousands of years. We thought chickens were first domesticated probably in the Far East. Some countries involved were probably Thailand, China, areas like that. And the breeds we see today are mostly new breeds of chickens as far as the productive type of chickens you see. Chickens were first domesticated for ornamental reasons. They were prized because of feathers, color, adornment. You know, they were sort of the jewelry of the industry a long time ago. And today we still have some of that. But a lot of the adornment we think of today ends up like in areas like using feathers for fly tying. That's probably the most expensive bird you can purchase today that have special genetics for fly tying with special colors and things. Of course, commercial industry doesn't do any of that. They're all white feathered birds, very specialized today for production of meat and eggs. Today's commercial poultry industry is actually split into three different industries. You have the broiler or meat producers, which produce chicken. Then you have the turkey companies that produce the familiar turkey that you have at Thanksgiving, but also a lot of meat for things like deli applications. And then you have the egg industry. And a lot of people don't understand, those are three types of chicken. Those are three distinct industries. And often the companies that produce eggs, for example, don't produce any chicken meat. So I always tell my students, if you work for an egg production company, you still have to go to the supermarket and buy chicken if you want chicken dinner that night.
Chickens that lay eggs are called layers.
Laying hens today will produce about 1 egg per day. And during a 365-day year, they'll take a few days off. But it's well over 300 eggs from each hen today. And in fact, if you look at per capita consumption, there's about 1 hen for every person in the United States. They lay the same number of eggs that you and I eat per hen. So if we add 3 million more people, we need 3 million more hens. And that's nothing to sneeze at. That's about 3 large complexes every time we increase population. So egg consumption is related to the number of eggs each one produces. Now they produce 1 egg per day, and that's regulated by light. Light regulates a longer day length. It causes a hen to lay more eggs. So we exposed them to summertime type lighting procedures. Of course, they're in a nice comfortable barn where it's summertime temperatures, even on a winter's day. And that helps us produce eggs all during the year. Otherwise, we'd have a tremendous egg shortage every year when the day length gets really short outside. So that gives us our 1 egg per day. They will eat about a 1/4 pound of feed per day per hen. So that's several tons per day in a large complex. Most of the feed is going to be corn, probably about 60 to 70%, maybe more, is corn. Large percent of the feed after that would be soybean meal. Now, I get a lot of questions on brown eggs versus white eggs and what's really the difference. Well, obviously, one has a darker pigment, and that won't just be brown. It can be blue, green, various hues, pink, red, and dark chocolate brown. So that's part of the genetics of the bird. We can have white birds that lay brown eggs. We can have brown birds that lay white eggs, basis on the genetics that you choose. Everybody asks me, do they taste different? I don't think so. To me, they don't. Everybody's a little different. Which one is more nutritious? That's a better question, probably. Not a lot of difference between the two. And in fact, it always stuns people that an ostrich egg is about the same as a chicken egg. It's just bigger. And a hummingbird egg is about the same as an ostrich egg. It's just smaller. They both are going to hatch a live embryo. And they both need the same basic building ingredients to make that chick. So why would a brown egg layer produce something in her egg that a white egg layer doesn't? So not a lot of differences there. I guess some of that thought came from years ago, and it's still a little bit true today. The yolk in a brown egg is a tiny bit bigger than the yolk in a white egg. Again, that's just part of the genetics. And if you add up nutrition, then if the yolk contains certain things like lutein, that's supposed to be good for eye health, then you could probably say that if you eat more brown eggs, you'd have a better healthy diet. I don't know, but the differences are so small. There's basically 6 sizes of eggs in the supermarket today, and anything from peewee, small, medium, large, extra large, and jumbo. The 2 most profitable ones today in the industry are going to be large. That's the one that goes through retail at a higher amount. So most egg producers try to shoot for just a large egg. Anything larger than that has more tendency to break. And so breakage during shipping and then when the customer buys it, a lot of times will diminish the profit. So they focus on the large egg. Medium, that market is the fast food industry because that's the size that they like to choose for their serving basis. Small, peewee, a lot of times end up in further processing where the eggs are broken out. The egg packaging cost would probably cost more than the profit in the egg, so they end up in a liquid product, as well as jumbo and extra large because of the cracking. A dozen eggs weighs 24 ounces if they're large, and it goes up 3 ounces for extra large and up 3 ounces again for jumbo and down 3 ounces at a step on the other end. So 24 ounces is what a dozen eggs should weigh if you're buying large in the store. Today, yes, eggs are sorted in the plant. When the hens produce the eggs, depending on the age of the flock, generally the eggs are pretty uniform. Geneticists have selected to have a really uniform flock, but when the eggs roll down into the processing plant, the machine we use today is several $1 million. It will weigh each egg many times during the process. They'll be separated according to weight, if need be, and they'll be packaged according to size and sold to various markets. It's really amazing how fast they go from the hen today to the grocery store. And this is the way I teach it in class, and it really opens people's eyes. A lot of egg farms today have 1 million, 2 million, 5 million hens. Imagine every day getting 1 million eggs, and imagine the size of rooms they have to be stored in. 1 million eggs is not just your little small cooler that you would have in your house. It's a lot of inventory. So a lot of egg farms today, or most all egg farms, they will have inventory control just in time. They will produce those eggs, they will package them that day, they will put them on a truck and be in the store 24, 48 hours ready for retail. So the quality of eggs has tremendously increased because we get them to the store fresher than we ever have.
Chickens that are grown for meat are called broilers.
Broiler is what we refer to as a bird that's going to be raised for meat. They're very efficient at producing meat. It can take as little as 1.6 pounds of feed per pound of gain in a broiler. The broiler is hatched on day 1, and the number of days it takes to get to a marketplace has been reduced. It's generally a rule of thumb about a half a day per year as the industry moves forward. So if it took 35 days to grow a broiler this year, we hope next year it's going to take 34 and a half days. The number of days it takes to grow a broiler depends on the market today. We grow smaller birds for some markets, like certain fast food applications. We grow much heavier birds for other markets, like for deli production of large quantities of meat, or what we call a deboning market. The fast food market, or the smaller birds, may only take 30 to 35 days. And part of that's to reduce processing costs. It takes about the same amount of time and effort to process an 8-pound bird as it does to process a 5-pound bird. So you will get more pounds of meat if you just do more birds at a larger body weight. So the industry has really, not only do we have specialization in eggs, turkey, and broiler, but we also have specialization in each industry. For example, the egg industry specializes in a fresh market or a broken out market for a liquid product, and the meat industry specializes in fast food, deli selections, value adding. So those are all different segments, and depending on your marketplace, your company may focus on one or the other. The chick that we place in a barn is provided all the heat, all the lighting it needs to grow throughout its life cycle. Broilers are generally grown in what we call a cage-free confinement facility. They're provided a perfect atmosphere, good temperatures, adequate ventilation, the perfect nutrition that you could ever dream of for growing chicken. And when they are placed, we monitor every single day. A contract grower normally goes in and takes care of the facility several times a day and collects data every single day. We have automated systems today that watch the growth chart of the birds. It watches the feed consumption of the birds, and they can tell within hours when that bird is going to be ready to process at the processing plant. Of course, everything's meant to be very efficient. Everything's timed perfectly, because if you're not using facilities very efficiently, then you're not able to make as much profit. It has one distinct advantage compared to other types of meat, and that is when a bird accumulates fat on the carcass, the fat is not inside the muscle. Most of the fat accumulates in the skin of a bird, and that's why if you've read any publications on nutrition eating chicken, they'll tell you to eat skin-free or remove the skin from a chicken before you consume it. Food safety, of course, is a concern with any meat today, including poultry. We like you to thaw it in the refrigerator, not on your counter. We like to thaw it at a cool temperature to prevent the growth of bacteria. We like to cook it thoroughly. A lot of people will tell you different types of meat should be cooked at different temperatures, and the breast meat and the leg meat. I just tell people to cook it to about 180 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's the threshold to make sure that we don't have any potential pathogens passed on during consumption. So thoroughly cooked meat, of course, is very important, just to make sure that in the event of a small chance that those pathogens aren't passed along.
As with all livestock, the welfare of the animals is very important.
The diets they consume today are specially formulated, and we do it on a least cost basis. In other words, we try to make it as low a cost as possible to get the largest number of eggs or the largest amount of meat we can in return. The nice thing about that is it's also environmentally friendly. If we overfeed these birds too much protein, too much energy in the ration, well, they just don't use it. And it goes through, it comes in manure. It may increase the nitrogen content of the manure or the phosphorus content, and then we go to spread it. We may be creating environmental concerns. So today we have very concise nutrition. Whatever the bird needs is only what we give it. Well, in poultry production, about 60 to 70% of our cost is related to feed. Of course, a very important person in the complex is a nutritionist. They all have a professional nutritionist to try to reduce those costs as much as possible, but also give the best benefit of nutrition to the birds to maintain production. The nutritionist will look at things like protein, fat content, mineral content, vitamins, of course, are part of that as well, and try to meet the needs of the bird without overformulation. Overformulation means we end up losing nutrients into the manure. The manure will then could be less environmentally useful at that point. Nutritionist looks at protein, and not only just protein, but also in individual amino acids. But protein, of course, is made up of amino acids, and protein's expensive. And one way we are able to match the nutritional requirement of the bird is the use of added nutrients like individual amino acids that are available today, which allow us to reduce the protein content and reduce our nitrogen that's wasted in the process of producing poultry meat and eggs. So it's much more environmentally friendly than it used to be. That's allowed us to reduce our costs tremendously and makes the price better at the grocery store, of course, for the consumer. So nutrition is probably one of the most intricate things that we do in the poultry industry, since it's such a big part of our costs. We are constantly measuring our ingredients. We're looking at the quality of our ingredients, so the quality of our grain is very important. We look at contaminants that could be in there from things like, you know, the normal things like mold or moisture content or mineral content and things like that. So, but it's on a daily basis. They're always monitoring what's coming in. You know, when you look at a quarter pound per bird for a laying hen times a million laying hens, that's a lot of feed per day they consume. Well, the nutrition of the hen is very important to maintain good egg production. That's what a producer is after. On the consumer's end, it's also important because the nutrition of the egg can be altered by the feed we give them. Most often when you go to the grocery store, you'll see categories of eggs or what we call designer eggs in the industry. A designer egg is when we give a nutrient to the hen that's then incorporated into the egg, and then when you purchase it, you'll be getting more of that nutrient. And a good example is, first one, the most obvious, is the yellow color. Very dark yolked eggs can have more lutein. Lutein is very important health-wise because it helps night vision and eyesight. That's one type of designer egg. It's also very popular to put in omega-3 fatty acids into the diet. The hen will incorporate those into the egg, so we get some of those good fats that they tell us is good for heart health, and that way you can eat eggs instead of eating fish, where omega-3 fatty acids are in very large amounts. So there's different things we can do. Vitamin A, vitamin E can be added, almost like taking a vitamin pill when you eat an egg today. Well, the term free range, when it comes to poultry, means that they're going to have access to outdoors at some time during the production process. Now, each producer defines that differently. Some define it by space. Some define it by how many hours per day. Some allow birds to be in open air. Some are in covered and protected air to make sure that we don't have predators and things like that. So free range is defined sort of like a farm today. It's just sort of whatever the environment has at that time. It's much more difficult to control. You know, our biggest concern in free range is predators. That's obvious. Second is disease control. You know, when you think about poultry and compare that to other farm animals, poultry have vectors, which are something that we consider could be carrying disease, like birds flying in and out of their pens, and at any time, birds that are in free-range operations could be exposed to those vectors. And so we have more concerns about how we control diseases compared to animals in confinement. There are actually three types of production today. One is, of course, cage production, which is the majority of how eggs are produced. Another one is what's called free roaming. That's when they're in a facility that's controlled, but there are no individual cages. In fact, the individual cages today in the industry no longer exist. We've long had communal cages, enriched cages, and more community type situations than just individual cages. So those have long been gone. People don't quite understand that. But a lot of the new technology is moving toward cage-free. Of course, broilers have always been cage-free. They're grown on the floor of confinement facilities, and sometimes free-range is part of their program too. They're allowed to go outside or into what we call a porch situation, where they have a roof to keep them out of the rain, but they can still go to the outdoors. Well, oversight in the poultry industry occurs on many levels: federal, state, maybe even local ordinances on how poultry are grown and processed. But it's not just the poultry, it's also things like the feed ingredients. The quality of the feed, corn grades and grading are involved as well. The poultry itself on how they're grown. Most of the management for the poultry is through the contract grower. Once the egg is produced or the bird arrives at the processing facility, it goes through many steps of inspection, either through the USDA or other agencies. That oversight makes sure that the quality of the food is what is marked on the label. It's made sure that it's done in an environmentally sensitive manner as well. So they even look at manure production, byproduct usage, or byproduct in the way of wastewater and other products that are being made in the facility, all done under strict oversight of various agencies.
The biggest misconception right now is probably the welfare side or the industrialization of ag. And you know, I'm a huge advocate of eating local and eating heritage breeds and things like that. But that doesn't diminish at all my thoughts of how we produce our food.
What people don't realize is that up until World War II, chicken meat used to be one of the most expensive meats you could purchase. In fact, that's why most people had it on Sunday. It was because it was a once-a-week meal. They found it as comfort food at the time. After World War II, we learned how to produce poultry on a more efficient scale under today's more modern methods of contract growth. What's happened is the price of poultry meat has come down. The great thing about the poultry industry over the last few decades is because of efficiency, it's brought the price of our protein in our diet way down. It allows people to consume a more healthy diet. We're able to consume about 84 pounds of chicken meat per year per person, which is incredible as far as dietary needs go. The rest of the world, meanwhile, has started also consuming more chicken. So as the price has come down in the United States, it's also come down worldwide. Those economies that have been struggling for decades, as they begin to improve their means of lifestyle, they're able to consume more protein. When they do so, they're choosing a lot of chicken because it's one of the more economical meats on the marketplace today.
There you have it. We hope today's show helps you appreciate this hugely important bird. For the Real Ag crew, I'm Kyle Bauer, and this has been Real Ag.
Production of Real Ag is made possible by
The Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by farmers.